Hello my sandy friends. Today we're going to look at lens 9, buried objects in the sand tray. It is very common for clients, especially young children, to bury different symbols, different objects in the sand, whether fully or partially so. Sometimes it seems to happen accidentally, sometimes it's definitely on purpose. Sometimes the client almost is trying to keep it secret from you, and sometimes it's very open. So we're going to have a look at different aspects of buried objects and what these might mean. So these are some of the things you could notice and look out for when your client is burying things in the sand. Observe whether the symbol is buried fully or partially so. Sometimes things partly sticking out of the sand, sometimes only a small part of them. Sometimes they're fully hidden and buried. And sometimes you may find that the burying is very deliberate. Sometimes it seems to happen almost by accident or just by coincidence, with the sand seemingly accidentally covering fully or partially a particular symbol. Notice the amount of energy and effort the client expends in order to bury this particular object or symbol. Sometimes it takes quite a lot of effort. If it's a bigger object, especially with dry sand, it can take some time and quite a lot of effort to bury it fully. Notice what emotion arises for you and emotion arising for the client as they bury the symbol. Do they place something on the top of that area where something is buried, as if they're trying to make sure that it's kept there under the sand? Occasionally we might find that the object gets revealed, especially with children. They will often hide something and then almost accidentally find it, or they might invite you to join in a game where they hide often treasure. They hide treasure and they invite you to find it. Every child wants to be found and for their treasure to be found. You may find that the client says something about the buried object, or they might not mention it at all. And if you do wish to comment or ask any questions on this topic, just again consider whether it is safe, relevant and appropriate to do so. So what does it mean when somebody buries things in the sand? We may make some assumptions based on our own experience. If you have made a sand tray where you buried things, it might have had a particular meaning for you. And as always, there is a potential multitude of meanings that may arise. That's why it's so important that in the first place you pay attention to those first 3 lenses, noticing your body sensations, your emotions and your intuitions as you observe the client burying something in the sand. So some examples of meanings may be those objects that are fully buried may be the ones that are frightening and horrifying, and they might be dangerous, threatening, intolerable or disgusting to the client. They want to put them out of sight, maybe even punish them. So these might be buried deep, and there may be some weights put on top of the burial place, maybe some stones or rocks or other heavy objects to keep those dangerous things hidden in the sand. On the other hand, a buried symbol may be a treasure. It may be precious. Maybe it's something that's put in the sand for safekeeping until someone finds it, someone good and fair and kind and safe. It might be you, the therapist. So occasionally those hidden treasures get accidentally, so-called accidentally, left in the sand when it's cleared, possibly by you rather than the client. Sometimes even when we clear the trays, we might not find that little gem, and it might only appear later on. So something that's buried in the sand can also be something mysterious, a secret, something magical, again something that may want to be found or revealed or stay hidden for some time. The thing that is buried may be something dead or dying, and it could be anything that the client doesn't want to see, wants to forget or deny, and that necessarily doesn't need to be a bad thing. It might be something good. Some of us bury our very positive qualities, our joyful qualities, like our creativity, for example, may be buried as we are too scared to connect with it. So as you can see, there are all these different potential meanings, and unless you use the filter of body, emotions and intuitions, it's very easy to make a mistake in assuming what it means when your client buries a symbol. Just a couple of words about partially buried figures. Often this does relate to feeling overwhelmed or feeling stuck, feeling like drowning. If it's a human figure, like in this particular picture, you can see it's almost like the person is drowning in quicksand. And sometimes bodies are buried upside down, head first, as a form of punishment or the form of restraining them. And not only bodies, sometimes benign figures are treated this way. So each example of burying an object will have their own unique symbolism, and you can be more accurate with understanding it through your body, emotions and intuitions. I hope you enjoyed our lens 9. Next video will be on lens 10, on contours in the sand. In the meantime, you can find the full 36 lenses handout on the shop page of my Sand and Sound Center website. You can also find information on the Sand Therapy Journeys program on my Sand Therapy Journeys website. Thank you for listening, and see you again soon.